This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and one spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you the flexible platform built to grow with you. Try it today for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, where we're going to take a look at an older episode with a little bit of behind-the-scenes information, a little bit of director's commentary going on here. This is an interesting episode. It's an interesting episode for a couple different reasons. I think that it works on a few levels, and then on some very important levels, fails as a paranormal podcast. So let's go ahead and take a look at this episode here. Very, very interesting behind the scenes, I think. Episode 768, Who Stole the Sky? A ninja attacks a U.S. base on U.S. soil, and nobody seems to care. It's such a bizarre story. So insane. Then, I'm outraged people aren't talking about that story. And then, we travel to Oregon to have a good night out drinking at a local bar. Everything is going according to plan until it's time to go to sleep. And then we take a look at a brand new conspiracy theory from the twisted mind of your favorite podcast host, Jason Carpenter. A lot of times we've talked about people like Hans Wormhat and other conspiracy theorists who believe that NASA is trying to hide proof of God from us. We always laugh at these conspiracy theories, but the other day I looked up at the night sky and had an epiphany. What if Hans is right? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. Hope you guys are having lots of fun. Hope you guys have some cool plans for the weekend. I bought a heater that oscillates. That's how exciting my life is right now, and you know what? I love it. I've always seen myself moving up here from California when I moved up to Hood River. I always saw this was Sam going back to the Shire. I'm retired, baby. I'm done with all of the crazy adventures. I'm done. I buy an oscillating fan on Amazon, and it gets sent to me, and I'm like, whoa, this is a heater with a remote control, and it oscillates? Like, that's the most exciting thing, and I love it. I don't need car crashes, people coming after me. I just need an oscillating heater. You get to that point in life, and it is a good point in life. And another good thing in life is our Patreon supporters. Coming into Dead Rabbit Command right now, a longtime Patreon supporter. Give it up for George Clooney, the George Clooney. You didn't know he's the word of the show? Come on in, George. I call him Georgie for short. George, you're going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the Patreon, I totally understand. I could buy a lot more heaters, but I totally understand. Just help spread the word about the show. Really, really helps out a lot. George, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the hair hang glider. We're going to leave behind Dead Rabbit Command, grab onto George's hips. Oh, wait, actually, before we do that, we got some Fan Art Friday. We're just going to hold on to his hips for the rest of this segment. Fan Art Friday, look at this awesome art I got from Madison Merritt. It's the classic Dead Rabbit Radio logo, but Madison's own take on it. Really, really love this stuff you guys are doing. That's so awesome. Really, really love it. Thank you so much, Madison. So, George, we're going to go ahead and keep holding on to your hips. We are leaving behind Dead Rabbit Command. We are headed all the way out to the Mojave Desert in California. The reason why we're going out to the Mojave Desert, this story absolutely boggles my mind. So let me start by giving credit. Mason on the Patreon Discord sent this over to me, so thank you so much for that. And I got all of my information, because it's really only coming out of one source right now. It's Stars and Stripes, which is the official newsletter for the armed forces. These articles have been written by Chad Garland. September 18th, 2021, we're in the Mojave Desert. We're specifically at the Inyokern Airport. And what's going on, it's 1 a.m., and currently this airport is being used for training exercises by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, a.k.a. the Night Stalkers. It's an elite helicopter unit. They're training here. And at 1 a.m., the staff sergeant leaves the admin building. Smoke a cigarette. Get a little relaxation from all those other knuckleheads in that building. There's 26 guys in total here. And while he's outdoors, he's smoking a cigarette. His name is not released for security reasons, and I will also assume embarrassment reasons. As he's outside smoking a cigarette, he turns around, and there's a ninja standing next to him. Full-on ninja garb, carrying a katana, and he asks the staff sergeant, "Do you know who I am?" I don't know. I don't know if he had a voice changer, but we will pretend that he did. "Do you know who I am?" Staff sergeant's looking over at him, and he's probably thinking, a ninja? But I mean, specifically, I don't know. So he answers no. And then the guy goes, "Do you know where my family is?" Staff sergeant's like, "Are there baby ninjas around?" That would be really cool if they're like hiding in the bushes and underneath street lamps. But he says no. He doesn't goad on the armed ninja. He goes, I don't know where your family is." The ninja then begins to slash at the staff sergeant, cutting his knee and his leg. Staff sergeant starts running away. Gets to a fence, jumps over it. The ninja is in quick pursuit. See, he doesn't even make sound. I didn't have to do a sound effect. He doesn't make sound when he's running. The staff sergeant breathes heavily. The ninja does that non-noise. Staff sergeant gets into the admin building and goes, "Guys, you will not believe what's out here right now. A ninja." He didn't let him guess, because he knew they would never guess. They're like, "An elephant?" He's like, "No, a ninja." He locks all the doors. He's calling 911. There's 26 special operations soldiers in the hangar versus one ninja. We've been lied to, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen many an episode of G.I. Joe, which let me know that if you took 26 Joes and put them up against Storm Shadow, to be fair, this is a cartoon, but the Joes would win. Maybe Storm Shadow is going to take a couple of them out, right? You don't want to be that guy, but it's a cartoon. They're not really dead. Shipwreck just gets his shirt kind of torn. Now, I guess we've also been watching movies where one guy with ninja skills comes in and kills a bunch of faceless goons, but these are U.S. soldiers. They're not faceless goons. We're not the faceless goons. The other guys are the faceless goons. Those troops from Belarus trying to take down Owen Wilson. Those are the faceless goons. Unless you're listening to this podcast in Belarus, and you're my favorite listeners. This one ninja keeps 26 Special Forces operators at bay. Now, to be fair, they're Special Forces in helicopters, but still, they should know how to fight, like hand-to-hand or chair-to-sword. They are in this building hiding from a ninja with a sword. And he begins throwing... First off, he begins punching the door, which their hearts must have just stopped at that point. Because after the first fist punch hits the door, you have to think, does he know a ninja way? Does he know a ninja way of punching a door off of the hinges? But he punches the door a couple times. That doesn't work. He begins punching windows, which works. And then he picks up a big piece. He picks up a big piece of asphalt and throws it through the window. And again, people think this wasn't a real ninja. Because we'll get to the ending of this story. That's how stories normally conclude. But People think he's not a real ninja. He is able to take a large piece of asphalt, throw it through a window, and hit a man in the building. That's skill. That's skill. Because when you think about it, when you're trying to shoot a hoop, shooting basketball, that's already a little difficult. But he's shooting basketball with not a basketball, with a giant piece of asphalt. It's going through a window, and he's still able to throw it accurately enough that it hits a captain. Now, the soldiers, even though they're soldiers, you're like, Jason, you're going really hard on these guys. This ninja did have a sword, and I get it. I've had knives pulled on me. It's not a fun experience. But, like, what do these guys do in the battlefield, right? I mean, again, they are helicopter operators, so maybe they don't know how to fight hand-to-hand, but I thought that was kind of required. I thought, like, if you joined the military, you had to know how to swim and shoot a gun and, like, roll around on the ground and go, no, and scream in the air and stuff like that. But apparently those rules don't apply to the 160th. They are just hanging out. They don't have any guns in there. They're on training. They don't have any guns. They don't even have, like, an experimental helicopter. They don't have nothing. What were they training with? The police show up, and they shoot him with some non-lethal rounds. And I really hope that he tried blocking them with his sword. I don't know. It doesn't say for sure, but the rounds were useless. The non-lethal rounds did nothing to this guy. So I'm sure the police officers left it out of the report that it was so weird. We pulled our guns, and then all of a sudden reality became split screen, and it was a close-up of my eyes and a close-up of his eyes. And then I shot 3 times, and he just moved his sword around noiselessly. Is that a word? Quietly. He moves his sword around quietly. It moved like a whisper through the night sky. It moved like a whisper through the morning air. And then the non-lethal rounds just seemed to be chopped in half. They don't say that. They don't say that. They did pull out a taser, and they finally subdued him with a taser. That story I'd seen when I was on my vacation, and I was like, what? This is insane. But I wanted to wait, because I wanted a key piece of information. When the story was first released, they said, authorities are not saying who this guy is. And I thought, that's really the crux to the issue, right? If this guy is a ninja, and he's actually from like a ninja clan, this is huge. This is huge geopolitical ramifications. And then there was a follow-up article to this whole thing. They did announce who this guy was. Gino Rivera, 35-year-old man. And I'm like, now I just have even more questions, right? I was thinking maybe it was an actual ninja and the military kidnapped this guy's family or something like that. He was on some sort of collateral Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque revenge mission. No, it was some guy named Gino Rivera, not a ninja, just some dude who's now in jail for attempted homicide, brandishing a weapon. He had a whole slew of charges, right? Embarrassing the U.S. military. You go, Jason, I think you're going a little hard on the fact that a dude shows up. How would you like it if a dude showed up with a sword at your workplace, right? And I wouldn't, right? It'd be pretty rude. But I'm not a trained soldier. I'm not a trained soldier, but if I was a trained soldier and some guy comes to me with a sword and he's like dressed as a ninja and he goes, you know where my family is? I'll say, probably burning in hell. Why don't you respect my back? And I just turn around, right? That's going to throw him off of his game. And I'm going to hear that sword whistle through the wind. And I'm going to put my hands up. I'm going to block it. I'm going to catch it with my hands right before it hits my skull. I could have done it earlier, but I wanted it to be super dramatic. And then I turn around somehow. I don't know. I haven't worked out all the physics, but I turn around. My head spins around like The Exorcist, and I'm staring at him. And I look at it, and I go, my turn. And then I flip the sword up, and I catch it. And then I keep it because it's a cool sword, and I want a sword. I take it to my car, and I put it in the trunk. And then I come back, and I walk back to him. And I go, my turn still, because he's not doing anything. And then I kick him in the shins a couple times. See, if it's that easy, if I could do it, well, actually, to be fair, you don't even need that made a thing. The police did it. The police showed up, shot a couple of non-lethal rounds at him, tased them, and it was over. So I don't know. I just think the military are trained to fight, and this guy came to fight, and they ran away, and they hid. So that's a little just embarrassing. And more to the point, what in the world was this guy's motivation? Where is his family? Are they really missing? Was this guy actually on this revenge quest? Was he like a self-trained ninja or an American ninja? Maybe? Who knows? They're not telling us anything. And they weren't telling us this story at all until it leaked onto Facebook from people who knew about it. And then Stars and Stripes covered it. And then it was in the mainstream news very, very briefly. U.S. base infiltrated by a ninja who attacked servicemen, and then they ran and hid, and he continued to attack them until he got tased. That's a story. That's a national news story. What in the world is going on? George Clooney. Let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the Jason Jalopy. We are leaving behind in Yoki Airport or whatever the pronunciation was. I moved past that page. We're leaving behind that. The troops are like, thanks for the tips on self-defense. I'm like, you got it, guys. And a while ago, I hope you never try that. You can't catch a sword before it hits your skull. We're giving you the keys to Jason Jalopy. We're headed all the way out to Oregon. George Clooney's driving us all the way up there. We're watching Batman and Robin for the 15th time. And finally, we get to a little pub in Oregon. Now, I got this story from a friend of mine. It actually happened to her not too long ago. It's a very, very interesting story. But for the sake of privacy, I'm going to be changing some of the names and things like that. Because it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Talking to my friend Molly, she listens to the show. She shared this story with me. Her son works at a bar, not in town. He works at a bar in another town. And he thought it was weird when he went to get the job. The interviewer, the boss, asked him, do you believe in ghosts? Because this bar, the business owner explained, is haunted. It's a haunted bar. There's 3 ghosts who regularly hang out here. Now, even people who believe in ghosts, I believe in ghosts. But if somebody told me this is a haunted bar, I would be like, oh, that's really cool. I no longer want a job here. Thank you. Thank you for your time. That's super spooky. I don't need that level of stress to work in a haunted place. But you would think, oh, is it like, and then at midnight, sometimes you hear a clock chime 12 times. Like, there's different levels of ghostly activity. Sometimes when a train goes by, a glass mysteriously falls off the bar. We don't know what causes it. Molly's son is working the bar one night, and he sees a full-body apparition of a ghost walk by. Which, despite what the movies would have you believe, is the rarest type of ghost encounter. Most paranormal encounters, ghost encounters, are fragrances. Really in this order. Fragrances, noise, hearing something that you shouldn't hear, creaks. That actually, in yesterday's episode, I'll put that in here. Yesterday's episode when I was talking about Baby X, or that was Wednesday's episode, I was talking about Baby X. I'm going to play this clip for you here in this haunted closet. It sounds like a footstep every time I mention the age of the victim. It was a 3-week-old infant. It was the body of a 3-week-old infant. That's not me. Like, I was making sure I was perfectly... When the first time I heard it, I go, is that me? And then the second time, I did it again. So just weird. I have ghosts at home. I don't need ghosts at work, but most ghost encounters go like this. Fragrances, smells, perfumes, cigar smells, noises, voices, and then seeing something. And even then there's that degree of seeing the mist fly by versus seeing a discernible figure. That's the most common in movies because it's very visual. That's the least common you'll see in real life. So her son sees a full body apparition. The family goes out to visit their son who's away. He's working at this bar. And they go to the bar. They're visiting him, right? They're not like, hey, son, we're in town, but we're going to Applebee's. They go to the bar, they're hanging out, they see him, and they have a good time. Family has a good time. They tip their son very poorly. They're like, oh, it's a horrible service, son. That night, Molly has a dream. Molly is in a house, and she's taking care of a little girl. Little girl in a white dress. She doesn't recognize her. Cute little girl. She's just there to take care of her. And she gets the girl settled in this room. And there's a baby monitor in the room, so she knows that she can move about the house and do other things while this girl is safe And she goes upstairs, and she hears on the baby monitor what could only be described as demonic voices. So Molly runs back downstairs to check on this little girl. And when she goes to open the door, it's locked. She fights with the knob. She's trying to get this door open. She's banging on it. She's screaming. She's panicked. She knows something evil is on the other side of this door with this girl who she's supposed to protect. And when she finally gets the door open, the little girl was no longer in the room. Instead, the room was full of dogs. She doesn't say how many of them. I don't think it looked like Oliver and Company. I just imagine 3 really vicious type pit bulls, whatever, and they're barking at her. And she goes right when she opens the door and she sees these 3 dogs, or however many dogs, barking at her, getting ready for their big musical number. She sees another door in the hallway open up out of the corner of her eye, and she turns and she looks, and she sees the little girl run out of that door and run down into the basement of the house. Now, she immediately thinks this little girl's panicked. She's freaking out because of the demon voice, because of the dog, and she somehow got away. This little girl is now running down to the basement. I have to go get the little girl. We got to get out of this house. I have to save the little girl. And as Molly begins to run down the basement herself, she notices something. The little girl is running too fast. It's moving way quicker than any human should. Molly is now halfway down the stairs, and she stops. She's looking into the blackness of the basement. The darkness has swallowed the little girl in the white dress up completely. And Molly is standing on those stairs, and she comes to a very, very powerful conclusion. I cannot go down these stairs anymore. I cannot enter the darkness of the basement. And then she woke up, terrified of that dream. Later on, Molly told her son about the dream. I had this dream and there was this little girl and da-da-da. And as she's talking about her dream, her son stops her and goes, "Was the little girl wearing a white dress?" She goes, "Yeah." And her son goes, "That's one of the 3 ghosts that are trapped in this bar." The night she went to the bar is the night she had that nightmare, with the little girl leading her through the house, trying to get her to go into the darkness. And Molly's legit. Molly's a legit person. She's not someone who would try to pull a prank. She's a fan of the show. She listens to the show. She's a friend of mine. She wouldn't be telling me, a tall tale. Could have just been a dream, right? Could have just been a dream. Could have just been a coincidence. As girls in creepy white dresses, this kind of thing. Could just be the dream. But imagine if you visit this place and the ghost girl attaches itself to you. Maybe it attached itself to Molly because she's a mother. And attached itself to Molly because she's a mother and sensed the mother's love and knew that it would be a weakness. I wouldn't follow no one down to the basement. Are you kidding me? But Molly did, and at the very last moment, she caught herself from going down into the darkness. What was waiting in that darkness? What was that little girl's plan? And you see, Molly was able to tell this story to her son who works there, and he goes, "Oh, that's one of the ghosts that's at this place." And it leaves Molly with this kind of idea that how would this be classified? Did this ghost follow me home? Was it somehow able to attach itself to me? Was it just I was in a spooky place and something, I just had a weird nightmare. It's just not even connected. But think about all the people who go to that bar who don't have a son working there. Who go home and have a weird nightmare and would never ever put 2 and 2 together. They don't know that the bar's haunted. They go there for some fish and chips. Later that night, woman's laying in bed. She has a nightmare about a young girl she can't rescue from demonic forces. only to find out that the young girl herself may be a demonic force. But then think about the people who do continue into the basement. The dreamers who don't have that logic kick in at the last moment. Who aren't quick enough to realize, wait, no human can move that fast. If Molly had not realized that detail, she would have continued down into the basement. Are there people out there who have visited this bar, had that dream, and walked into the basement? And when they woke up, who were they? Were they the same person who wakes up and goes, well, that was a weird dream? Or is this bar and this little girl a demonic infestation? Ghosts tend to stay in a very localized environment. The place that they died, the place that they loved the most, the place where they have unfinished business. Demons roam. Demons leave. They have a base of operations, but have soul, will travel type of thing. What is the little girl at this bar in Oregon? Or was it all just a dream? We will see. That'd be cool to do an investigation there. Now you guys see why I left the business name out and didn't want to give the city because I basically blasted that business. I'm sure they serve lovely food. I'm sure the staff's great. But if you go there, you may be possessed by the demon of a little girl. You may have a dream and you may wake up and your soul is gone and a little girl is piloting your body. And nobody wants that except for the demons who work at this bar. George Clooney, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys of the Carpenter Copter. We got enough time because this last story is pretty short, but it's pretty brilliant in the literal term. I'm going to toss you the keys of the Carpenter Copter. We are headed all the way out to the middle of nowhere. And when I say the middle of nowhere, I'm talking like we're on a mountaintop. There's not a city or a town or anything to be seen for miles and miles and miles and miles. We're just enjoying each other's company. Molly's taking a nap. She's like, don't let her get possessed. Don't let her get possessed. We're hanging out there. We look up at the night sky. The other day I was walking through town here. I was hanging out with my friend Sabine. And I said, when's the last time you've seen the galaxy? Now, she's a real rural girl. And rural, I can't really say that word, but, country girl. She grew up more country than I did. And she's gone camping and stuff like that, stuff that I just don't like to do. She does that stuff. So I expected it to be a fairly high number. She said 5 or 6. And I was kind of shocked. I go, 5 or 6, really? She's like, yeah. I've seen the galaxy one time. 45 years old, I've seen the galaxy one time. I guess I'd seen pictures of it. And I'd seen it in movies. I'm not talking about like the galactic map of Star Trek or something like that. But when you're in a place with zero light pollution, you look up and you see the galaxy. It was truly awe-inspiring. Remember, we were on the way back. We had just seen the Sacramento Kings play against the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs. We were driving back. We had to pull over to go pee. It was me, Justin, and Hal. We got out of the car, draining the main vein, leaking the lizard. And I looked up. It's probably like 2 or 3 in the morning. I looked up, and that was the first time. I had to be like in my late 20s. And I'm still using terms like draining the main vein. I looked up, and for the very, very first time in my life, I saw the galaxy. I thought all of that stuff was like camera tricks, like exposures held for the long. I didn't know you could look up and see the galaxy. It's beautiful. And I haven't seen it since. It's been around 20 years since the last time I saw the galaxy. The other day when I was walking down the street, I asked Sabine, how many times have you seen the galaxy? And she said 5 or 6 times. And I thought it would be more, but I said, I have a conspiracy theory. And it really had just popped in my head when I was looking up at the sky. And you see like a couple stars, right? Maybe if you're farther away from town, you see a couple more stars. But when you're in the middle of nowhere, you see the Milky Way. And it's totally, if you guys don't, some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about because you've never seen the galaxy. You have to go into the middle of nowhere. We're walking down the street, and I said, I have a conspiracy theory. It just all kind of popped in my head. We talk a lot about Hans on this show. He's back, by the way. He announced his retirement, but he's back. He's doing stuff again. Nothing super hilarious, right? Just the same old. But his big thing is that NASA is trying to convince us that God isn't real. NASA is behind everything. NASA has orange chairs because orange is satanic color. And NASA is behind faking monkeys because monkeys make us think evolution's true. And if we think evolution's true, we don't believe in God. It's hilarious. And he's not the only person who thinks that. A lot of people think NASA is the super satanic group. It was started by Nazis, to be fair. It was started by Nazis. But the idea, I've always said, what would be NASA's stake in trying to keep us from believing in God? Or what would be really how could you do that? How could a group actually erase existence of God? A couple days ago, I was looking up in the night sky and I said, I have a conspiracy theory. Light pollution is being done on purpose. Because if every night, every person on the planet looked up and saw the glory and majesty of the galaxy we live in, you could not deny there was something greater than us. We look up at stars under these twinkling little lights. But when you see the galaxy, you see just splendor. I wanted to do a bunch of research on this. I wanted to try to match up places with low light and places with high levels of religion. I wanted to take a look at how light pollution is growing over the years and how belief in a deity have fallen. that research, I spent maybe like an hour trying to pull up some numbers, and I couldn't because it was, one, I had a bunch of other stuff to do. I had to read about a ninja fighting U.S. troops, and two, it's a lot of work. So I decided to be like every other conspiracy theorist out there and just make this claim. But here's my claim. The world would be far more religious. And I would say, I'm going to take a guess here. This is anecdotal, and this is just, if you look at parts of the United States that don't have a lot of light pollution, I'm going to gamble that they're more religious than the coastal cities that have tons of light pollution. I think that's a fair, but is that, and that was the other thing. I was thinking about doing all this research, but at the end of the day, is it causation? Like, could you actually show something, or could you show the rise of technology just mirrored a decline in religion, and the rise of technology creates more light pollution? So there was all that, right? I could have done a ton of research and it would have been inconclusive anyways. But the conspiracy theory is, what if, putting our conspiracy caps on, what if there is a conspiracy theory to make people not believe in a God? When you look up and you see the majesty of the universe, right in for every single night, how can you deny a creator? But if you look up and you just see 5 twinkly lights, and 10 of them are man-made, you're seeing planes fly by, you might see a couple satellites. It's far easier to go, well, we're just on a big old mud ball floating through the darkness. But we're not. We're in the Milky Way. We're in this beautiful gem. We live right in the middle of it, and we used to be able to see it from the time that humans developed the capacity to identify what was in front of them, to comprehend something beyond their physical body. From that moment until what? The 1880s? 1900s? When those first lights started going up, you saw a little less of the night sky. But by the time we're talking about like the 1960s and 1970s, light pollution is out of control. So from the beginning of mankind to the 1950s, what is that? Until 70 years ago, when you watched that sun set, you saw the galaxy. You saw what we were a part of. And again, there are 2 people listening to this show. One person who knows exactly what I'm talking about, who has seen the galaxy and goes, it is awe-inspiring. And then a lot of you are just like, but it's just the night sky. It's not. Those photos that, again, I thought were total time-lapse photos of the night sky, those cannot even capture the beauty of it. And so the question is, the obvious answer is, it's just the acceleration of humans. We build bigger cities, more lights are going up, we have high-rises and all that stuff is just a normal thing. But what if there is a group that wants to deny that God exists? And this has been a strategy that they've been laying out for decades. Fill the world with lights. Cut them off from the universe. Make them think we're just on a ball of mud in a darkness, and when you look up, you see a couple satellites, you see a couple airplanes, and oh, look, there's the North Star. Look at that little bright light out there. There's the Big Dipper. And it makes you think it's people like Hans Wright. Now, I don't believe the monkeys don't exist thing, but are there groups that are actively trying to erase something that would, when you see it day after day or night after night after night after night, makes you realize that you exist as something smaller of a glorious creation? And whether or not it's an organization on Earth of men and women who are actively doing this, or it is some, I mean, who's the person who mostly doesn't want us to believe in deity, right? A Satan, a Lucifer, a demonic presence. Now, this is his plan. Cut us off from the most beautiful view in creation. It's easier to tell us that it doesn't matter. When we die, we just disappear into the darkness that surrounds the planet. It sounds so demonic to want to cut a people off from God. That's kind of the definition of demonic. That's the definition of a satanic plan. Do you know what the name Lucifer means? It literally means light bringer. The story of Prometheus, who steals the fire from Mount Olympus and gives it to the humans. The gods were angry. That fire was a tool of the gods. You're giving it to these commoners. But what if that fire was the first time that the night was no longer magnificent? Even by the roaring fire, the galaxy looked a little less holy. Is there a conspiracy theory to hide the wonders of the universe from us? And is that conspiracy theory man-made, demonic, or both? Who knows? It's just the thought I had the other day. But I'm a 45-year-old man who's only seen the galaxy once. And for 1,000 generations before me, my ancestors saw the galaxy every single night. Doesn't really seem fair to be robbed of such a beautiful view. deadrabbitradio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at facebook.com/deadrabbitradio. TikTok is at deadrabbitradio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal conspiracy and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great weekend, guys. This is, you know what, the reason why I picked this episode to re-listen to is the conspiracy. I'm almost going to talk about this one backwards. We'll just go ahead and jump around, actually. The conspiracy theory I talk about at the end, I think about all the time, even today. I recorded this episode back in 2021, November 5th, 2021. This was a couple weeks ago. I go, dude, remember that episode I did about the light pollution and the glory of the universe being hidden from our eyes? How can you look up at a majestic view of the Milky Way and not believe there's something greater than humanity out there? But I can't see it because I'm in a neighborhood. We all have porch lights. I still think about that conspiracy to this day. The idea of Lucifer, the light bringer, the destruction of our normal natural world. Yes, it's super convenient. Yes, I'm recording this podcast. I have 2 lights on me right now, a lamp and then a ceiling light. I love the light. And this is one of those conspiracy theories, and that's an odd word to use for it, but basically it was a thought that I had. I go, why is it that... I don't even remember how it popped in my head. I did that episode about money. I'll put that episode in the show notes. I might do that as a classic at some point, but that was another thought that I had for a long time. We worship money, and more than just those words, right? We say, I need money, I want money, I don't have enough money. Well, what is money? And that was a thought I had years before the podcast came out. And I tracked down the root word of money, and it's a Greek goddess, if I remember correctly. I don't think it's Roman. I think it's a Greek goddess named Moneta. And that was one of those things that I had that thought in my head, and I go, who are we actually invoking when we say, I need money, I don't have enough money? And I actually tracked it back, and it was a Greek deity, or a deity of some sort, or a demigod. So it's like the thought I had in my head actually had an answer. Like, if it turned out that it was the Latin word for mud coin or something like that, then it would have been nothing. But to actually have an idea, and millions of people say this all the time, every day, and then it turns out that it actually is the name of an old god. We are saying, I need that god. I want that god. I don't have enough of that god. If I had more of that god, all of my problems would be solved. It's the most powerful prayer on the planet. It was a really cool idea, and I think the episode worked, and I think this one worked as well. Who stole the sky? I do think I kind of fumbled the ending, honestly. I think that I probably would now, and this is what I had planned. Sometimes you overestimate, that's not the right word, you overshoot the landing. I remember when I was getting ready to do this episode, I don't often have the endings planned, but sometimes I do. And I would have ended it right after I said, Lucifer means light bringer. I think that was a powerful enough ending. I think I kind of went on a little too long after that. And sometimes, I don't remember exactly how long, but sometimes even 30 seconds can be too long. There was one episode that I literally cut off, and I'm not talking about yesterday's Classics episode. There was the episode about that guy who wanted to know what it was like to rape and murder people. So he does. He kidnaps a guy and a girl. He kidnaps a girl, and he rapes her, and he plans on murdering her. And I think he murdered somebody else, her boyfriend or something. And he had like a journal, and he said, I overestimated how much I would like this, or something like that. And he killed himself in his backyard. And that episode just ends. There's no deadrabbitradio@gmail.com, nothing like this. I've only done that one time that I can recall. I tell the narrative and I stop, and then there's a pause, and then the exit music starts playing. The outro music, I mean. Bello Royale by my friend Simple. I did it one time, and I remember making a decision. I go, by me saying deadrabbitradio@gmail.com, I go, this moment is so awesome. I mean, it sucks that, people got murdered and there was a suicide and a rape and all that stuff, obviously, but as a narrative device, I go, I'm not going to include any of my stinger info on here, deadrabbitradio@gmail.com, any of that stuff. I go, I'm just going to, and I did second guess that decision. I actually think I recorded it. I didn't want to. I go, I'm going to end it like this. But just for safety, I recorded the ending, and then when I finalized the episode, I cut off the dead rat. And I think that was the proper instinct. And I think it's important that I've only done it once. If I did it more than once, it does rob it of its power. I may do it again, but even twice, spread across 1,600 episodes, it works. So to me, we talked about this yesterday, endings are important, and I think my endings aren't as strong, but I could have ended this just saying, Lucifer means Lightbringer. You guys are smart enough. I don't have to explain that anymore. You guys get it. Oh, I see what he's saying, that the devil brought light to mankind, literally the light bringer. And it was part of his deception, a way to make the night sky look like a black void, as opposed to a brilliant reality. I really enjoyed that story. So re-listening to this episode, I was happy that it worked out so well. What's interesting, let's go back though a little bit. One thing I don't like about this episode is making fun of George Clooney. Now, not that I have a problem making fun of George Clooney, obviously. I don't have a problem. But I do have a problem with this. I don't like doing... You're like, Jason, you do this all the time. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? If someone has a funny name, George Clooney, right? I don't know if this is the real George Clooney. I think we could assume, maybe, right? We don't know. But you're like, it's not. Well, we don't know. Anyways, I don't have a problem making fun of... I probably, here's the thing. If it was the real George Clooney making jokes about Batman and Robin, that's not cool. Because imagine you are a Patreon supporter. You're already taking the extra step to support the show financially. Maybe it's just for a month. Maybe it's a small donation. It doesn't matter. You still have to click these buttons, and you're saying, I'm going to support your show. And I know you, maybe just casually through the podcast, but I know you are a musician. And I know that you did an EP that you didn't particularly like. Then you let me listen to it, and I go, oh, that's pretty good. And you're like, no, it's so bad. Like, listen to the way the guitar comes in. That's awful. We talked back and forth on YouTube comments or whatever. And then you support the Patreon, and I go, hey, yeah, everyone, welcome inside Skylark. Woohoo, Skylark. Yeah, more like Skyfark. His first EP sucked. Like, that's not cool, right? That's the equivalent of Batman and Robin. But here's the thing. That's not what I'm talking about not making fun of George Clooney. It's funny, if George Clooney had come up, and I don't actually think it's the real George Clooney, just so we're clear, but could be. When I say making fun of the Patreon, making fun of his name, calling him Georgie, I don't do stuff like that in real life. I don't know why I did it on the episode. If you tell me your name's James, I'm not going to go, what's up, J-Dog? What's up, Jamie? What's up, James and the Giant Peach? I don't do that. I think it's rude. Okay, if you were eating a giant peach at the time, I might comment on it. I'm not saying I'm the most polite guy in the world. But making fun of people's names, unless I don't like you, that was my giant peach. Unless I don't like you, I don't do it. And I think it's rude. And I think, listen, if your name, recently we had someone on the Patreon, I forgot what their name is, I really apologize, but the name invoked feelings of weightlessness, or it was cloud-based name. Something like Aether Dust. That wasn't the actual name, but... And I said, here they come, floating into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Don't take a big breath or you'll get a wisp of Aether Dust. Woo! That's not really making fun of the name. Plus, that's not their real name. You're like, Jason, that wasn't the real George Clooney. That wasn't his name either. My point is that I just think it's tacky. It's tacky. When I listen to the episode, I go, ugh. So, it's a minor complaint, but it bugged me. It bugged me. Someone went out of their way to support the Patreon. Like, it's not the real George Clooney. He was making a made-up name, so you can call him Georgie still. I don't like making fun of you guys. There's a difference when I'm like, oh, that's a funny name. Like 12 Fish and a Dog is a recent Patreon. And I was describing them as an aquarium with a dog attached to it, like a dog leading an aquarium. I mean, like, that's fine. That's not really making fun of it. But if I'm like, yeah, 12 fish, like 12 sushi, and also I eat dog. Well, see, even that would be a funny joke. That would be a funny joke. But whatever. Making fun of a real name, I think, is tacky. We got some amazing fan art for this episode. Madison had some fan art. I look at the show notes. I didn't give her proper credit for it in the show notes. I do that now. I'm more conscientious about having that in the notes themselves, your name and all of that, because I'm very grateful for all of the fan art. It's fantastic. When people ask, what are things you didn't expect when you started doing the podcast? Did you expect it to be so big? Did you expect it to be global? That always still kind of surprises me. When I'm like blowing up the charts in India, or I'm doing huge in Senegal or Ireland or Canada even. But the fan art's something I never would have expected. And the original piece of art, our Dead Rabbit Radio logo, was from the export. I posted the podcast on the export, and then 8 hours later, Ash Black drew up the Dead Rabbit Radio logo. And that Dead Rabbit Radio logo has been viewed 5 million times just through the ads I run. And even Madison's logo is a homage to Ash Black. So that's fantastic. I think that's so amazing. I'm always humbled by your guys' fan art. So I want to make sure I give you guys good credit for that stuff. It is funny. I just got a few more things to talk about. This isn't one that goes super deep. I know I'm kind of jumping around. We've had some time. 2021, we had that ninja attacking that military base story. I will say I loved the little foot echo of the ninja. I thought that joke worked. I thought that was kind of funny. I'm pretty harsh on my jokes here in the classics. But this segment, I was actually like legit smiling while I was listening to it. I wasn't like busting out laughing or anything like that. It's very funny because I think I'm really good at this. At the same time, Rudy Jazz, longtime supporter of the show, Rudy Jazz said, I thought when Jason said cut, it was a tick, of his. How some people say like, and some people say or and a lot. I thought Jason said cut. I thought it was a wiggle word. I thought it was a vocal tick. No, that's me saying cut. Remove what I just recorded and re-record it. And I thought I was doing a good job taking these out. But apparently not, because I keep hearing them as I'm doing these classics, and even people who listen to the show go, no, you do it all the time. He moved like a whistle through the night sky. Cut. Moved like a whistle through the morning air. Because I realized he's not flying. He's not actually moving through the night sky, so I said cut, and I meant to remove night sky and replace it with morning air. I mean, I don't know. It's lazy. I could say it adds a certain charm to the podcast, but really it's just me being lazy, and I hate it. I hate it when I hear it, because that means, to me, I failed at a part of my job. If I get the research wrong, that's a big issue. Like if it's a grievous error, if I make a mistake, whether it's Adam or Monica, those mistakes are going to happen. I don't have a way to check those. They're anonymous stories people are posting. If I get a date wrong or a location wrong, that's more serious, because that really starts to break down the entire story. Especially if the information was easily accessible, but I didn't research hard enough. But if I'm making such basic errors as saying remove the last 3 seconds and not removing the last 3 seconds and leaving in the part where I say remove the last 3 seconds, that's sloppy. That's sloppy. Anyway, so that ninja story, it's funny that happened, I covered it back in 2021. We're in 2026. There is still no information about who he is, his sentence, his arrest, nothing. There's no federal lockup information on him. There's no California lockup information on him. I'm assuming he's a civilian, which means he would be in the civilian court system. If he was an active member of the military, sure, it would be in the military court system, and I don't think those documents are easily accessible, but there's nothing on him. He attacked a military base. Successfully, we might add. I mean, eventually he did get, arrested, but he held all those dudes at bay. Where's my family? Where's my family? Yeah, what was it? Was he a mental breakdown? Who knows, right? Crazy story, and the fact that we have no extra information about it. I will say this. This was we actually did name him. Sorry, I just said that we didn't name him again. Like, I said that, and then I thought, no, that's not true. I actually remember hearing his name in the podcast. Yeah, Gino Rivera. So right there, I made an error, and then I thought about it, and I go, no, let me double check. So I took another look at the article. There was an episode I was going to do as a Class 6 episode. I don't remember what the episode was. I'll have to find it, put it in the show notes. But in the episode, it had a mother and a father attempting to sacrifice their children. This was like a modern-day story. It was a true crime story. They were attempting to sacrifice their children. The mother said, I'm going to sacrifice my kids because Jesus sacrificed his son for us. I'm going to sacrifice my kids as a, tit for tat to pay him back. And, I recorded that episode years ago, and I thought, I wonder if there's been any updates on that, and there hasn't. It was really interesting. I was trying to figure out, she tried sacrificing 3 kids. She had a altar in her garage or something like that where she strapped them down. I couldn't find any arrest information, any sentencing information, nothing. But what I found out was that the charges were dropped to a misdemeanor, right? To trying to sacrifice your 3 kids because she didn't actually do it or really physically harm them in any way. It was dropped down to child neglect or something like that. And then she was taken in for a mental health hold. And that's where all the records stop. Because now it's a HIPAA thing. It's a mental health. It's a health system thing. So that is interesting. Sometimes, like this guy, if he did end up being taken into court and they find out that he is just not lucid to stand trial and he has to go to a mental hospital, the docket will end there. I don't know if docket's the right word, but basically the record that is accessible to us will end there. And really, Stars and Stripes was the one mostly publishing this stuff as well. But I thought that was really interesting. I tried looking up information on him in the lockup system. I couldn't find anything. Let's wrap it up like this, because I'm actually getting really, really tired. I'm recording these not too long, less than a day before I have to go on the trip. But I don't want to phone it in. The second story, Molly's story, the haunted restaurant up in Oregon, that is a very creepy one. I'm surprised it's sandwiched in between these two. I think that story's strong enough to be the ending of its own episode. See, nowadays I do 2 stories per episode, and there's a strength to that. I'm not just flying through stuff and getting 3 stories done in 45 minutes. Molly's a good friend of mine. And she's told me a couple stories like this over the years. And when I say a couple, I'd say probably like 3 or 4. And then she stopped telling them to me. And she told me this one, she told me another one, I believe. And then another one. But what happened was, and I'm not going to give out too much information, but she had a encounter that terrified her so much that she originally said, this is where it happened, and this is when it happened, and this is what happened, and this is how I feel now. Still, I'm still very, very shooken up by this. And we were talking about this, and I was like, wow, that's creepy. Dude, that's so insane. Da-da-da-da. But obviously, I don't have a notepad or anything with me. And when I doubled back maybe a day later to ask her, hey, what was the name of that place you were at where that happened? She completely clammed up, which is very unlike her. The incident was so disturbing to her that she didn't want to talk about it anymore, so I didn't press her on it. Right? I'm not going to be like, no, I must need content for my show. This is someone who is sensitive, the word I would use, right? She has the ability to perceive ghosts in ways many of us cannot. And she had an encounter that was so terrifying, she just didn't want to talk about it at all. Not just not to have it covered on the show, because she listens to the show, but she just didn't even want to casually talk about it. I think I brought it up a month later just to see how she was doing. And she was doing better. But crazy stuff. I mean, you think about how sensitive she was in this story too, right? And I think it's interesting how many people go to that bar and have that dream and they don't make the connection of the bar ever being haunted. My friend Molly had the inside scoop. She was able to put 2 and 2 together, but even in the dream, she wasn't putting 2 to 2 together. So really cool ghost story, really cool true crime story, still a mystery, and then an awesome conspiracy theory. This episode, however, fails on one big part. And this is the type of stuff I'm surprised I don't get called out on. In this episode, I play an EVP of ghostly footsteps every time I mention the age of a dead baby. Okay? And then I go, oh, well, that's pretty weird, isn't it? Anyways, let's move on with the episode. Let's talk about a haunted bar I've never been to. That is me squeaking on the desk, just in case I think that's an EVP. Let me play you the EVP itself again. Just in isolation from the episode if you missed it. I know the sounds my place makes. That is the sound of someone walking outside. That's back when I was recording in the closet, the haunted closet. We had an episode once where I saw what looked like the shadow of a dog's foot walking around when I was doing an episode about a haunted vet. And I screamed in that episode. I mean, like, that was my visceral reaction. This episode that I was talking about, I think it was Baby X, but I'm not for sure. I didn't hear, if I remember correctly, it's been forever. I don't think I heard the footsteps. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I might have heard the footsteps because I stopped talking. But it could be that I got the age wrong, or I said it wrong, and that's why I stopped talking. But what a ridiculous moment to have said, hey, listen, I have this EVP I caught. Here's something walking around while I'm recording a paranormal podcast. I'm talking about a dead child who was sacrificed to Satan, and then I just move on. That is a problem with the podcast. I call myself a ghost hunter, but I'm also a big scaredy cat. And I also don't like hunting on my own turf. Should I do more to communicate with the spirits in my, or at least the one spirit in my house? I don't necessarily think so, just because I think we have a good living arrangement. But there's also the other thing of just not like looking into it at all either. And having those footsteps, the sound of the creaking floorboards happen in that moment. It was really weird. It's almost lazy and inexcusable for me to just say, hey, here's an EVP, and then just move on with the episode. I'm not saying I had to build a whole episode around it, but I could definitely do more to figure out what that was. And maybe it's because of my work schedule and I'm busy. Maybe it's like, Jason, you're a professional ghost hunter. Your work is this. I think it's because I don't like messing with stuff in my own house, but I don't know. When I listen to it, I go, wait, what? Why is this just being mentioned in the middle of this episode and then just continued on like nothing? So I do, I talk about doing more on the ground ghost hunting and stuff like that. And a lot of that is a time thing, but I mean, it's in my house. It's not like I have to travel to San Diego to go to the Whaley house or something, get strangled by a baby. It's in my house. And that was such a particular story. Because again, I record all sorts of stuff and I don't hear footsteps. That's what's stuck out to me. So that is a failing of the show, I think. I think that I could do more investigations, especially if they land in my lap. Right. I mean, that was an EVP. I picked up a couple and here's the thing. You go, Jason, you play EVPs from your house. Not all the time, but maybe every 100 or 2 episodes. 100, every 100, 200 episodes, whatever. True. But I go more into it. I don't just squeeze them into an episode. I don't even know why I thought that was a good idea. Again, I'm not saying I had to do a 20-minute breakdown, but probably I should have. I probably should have tried to investigate it a little bit more. So, I heard that and I was like, that's kind of ridiculous, Jason. Like, I mean, you caught possibly the phantom of a ghost or the sounds of a ghost phantom walking around when talking about a dead child who was sacrificed to Lucifer. And you're just like, whatever. Anyways, let's move on to my planned segment, which was good. I love all these stories. Again, I use this term a lot during yesterday's classics. I think this episode fires on all cylinders. True crime, paranormal, conspiracy. We have all 3 in one concise episode, plus an EVP. What more can you ask for from a podcast? I really like this episode. And I'm glad I do, because I do like that conspiracy theory. So listening to it again and being as entertained as I was, and I think it's pretty well put together, I did enjoy listening to this episode. I do need to figure out how to do the, balance out, obviously. I treated the EVP like it was an afterthought, and really, it was terrifying. Somebody's walking outside my recording studio. It's just a weird thing that I treated it like that. Not that it happened. That was weird enough, but the fact that I just kind of treated it as an afterthought is odd. Odd decision by me. And I don't know why. I'm assuming I was just busy back then. And I also don't like busy. I mean, trying to get episodes out. And I don't like investigating stuff. And I probably didn't want to try to replicate it either. Which you could go makes you a bad ghost researcher. But, I don't want to. Well, what's funny is now I wonder if it will replicate. It's going to be harder because I'm in a different location now. I'm only, 6 feet away from the haunted closet. I'm not like across town in a recording studio, but we'll see. Maybe I picked up some EVPs. I got to be careful though, because since, this is a desk and it moves sometime and I have a rolling chair and the layout's different, I'd have to really listen to see if there's an EVP. But if you guys know how often I leave in the word cut and I leave in bad takes, you guys can probably tell how carefully I listen to this podcast, and I should do better on that for sure. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this classics. It's 7 a.m. I'm going to try to record one more classics episode. That'd be cool if we could have 2 a week for the next 4 weeks. We'll see if we can get one more done. But again, I can't rush it. I actually have one more in mind, but I don't know if I just have a lot to say about it. So this might be the last one. Don't be surprised if this is the last classics episode, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be coming out with new episodes in a couple, probably by the time you hear this, 2 weeks, a week. We're going to have new episodes coming out on the 18th, I believe. Yeah, we'll be back on the 18th of August, so There's not going to be another one. I'm actually just too tired. I've been up since 2 a.m. and, listening to episodes and getting this stuff ready. But I think we're going to end the classics this time. We'll end on a strong note because I think this is a good episode. And I think that sometimes I'll listen to episodes and I really like them. I just don't have anything to say about them. And sometimes I'll listen to episodes that are really just kind of boring and I don't have anything to say about them. So I have to listen to quite a few episodes to get these. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoy doing classics, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll be seeing you guys soon with some brand new Dead Rabbit Radio. Be safe.
I need to be healthy every day to survive it and go through the next chemo round and the next chemo round. So it's important that work was part of that, to keep my mind busy for 8-9 hours. And then I had to go back and face the reality. I had a goal, and the goal was to survive.
Research shows there is a significant connection between the ability to continue to work and cancer recovery. We can make work a better place for healing.
Learn more and sign the pledge at workingwithcancerpledge.com.
Have a great one, guys.